What's going on, everyone? Good morning on this awesome Saturday. It's morning where I am, depending on where you guys are joining me from. Might be afternoon, who knows, maybe even nighttime. My name's Jesse. If you're new to my page, I want to say welcome to all of you. I also want to say thank you. If you've been here before and painted with me in the past, welcome back. Thank you for being here as well. I really appreciate all of you guys. I'm here a little early to answer questions. Don't know if how many of you might be on here, but I am going to go ahead and jump on my Facebook feed. It always takes me a little moment to get situated here. For some reason, Facebook doesn't let me do it before. Let's see, hang on 1 second. So bear with me, folks, as I find. Here we go. Here we go. It just gave me the alert that I'm live. So let's see here. There we are. Awesome. Let me just expand this really quick. So guys, if some of you could tell me, what's up, Stephanie? What's going on, Stephanie? How are you? If you guys can let me know if you can hear me, please let me know in the comments. Jesse, we can hear you just fine. I want to make sure that that you guys can hear everything that I'm saying. And then as you guys jump on, ask questions, say hello. Again, I'm a little bit early just to answer questions. What I'd like to say first off is if you guys see any comments, any links in the comments from somebody posting that they're going to be taking you to the live feed of this video or the recorded feed of this video, do not click on those links. Okay, scammers have been coming on my events these past few weeks, and they post links that they're supposedly taking you to the live feed of my videos. They're just trying to take you to another website to steal your money or your identity, etc. So please do not click on any links in the comments section. Okay, I try to ban any such links that pop up as quickly as I can, but I don't always catch them on time, and if things start getting really busy, I miss them. So again, do not click on any links that come up in the comment section, okay? Everything happens here on Painting with Jesse on Facebook, but yeah, you'll see some of those links possibly come up, and I just want to make sure you guys don't click on those. Okay, so what's happening, Rosemary Alonzo? Okay, sound is great. Carol Davis, thank you so much. Thank you. Andrea Ricardo, good morning. So guys, as you guys jump on, please say hello. Let me know where you guys are painting from. The group is small enough today where I can stay on top of the comments as they come through. Yesterday we did Jack and Sally from Nightmare Before Christmas, and we had like close to 1,000 devices on. So I don't know how many, couple thousand people maybe were painting along at the same time, because some people were painting in groups. But yeah, the comments were flying by, and I couldn't see anything on that. So again, I'm a little early just to say hi to you guys. We're not going to really get going till right about at 11 o'clock. I'll talk about the supplies and anything and all that other stuff that we're going to be using right at the beginning. Give you guys some basic instruction on how this works for those of you that might be new, and then we're gonna get going. Okay, we're gonna get right into it. Elise Oliveira from Whittier, California, how's it going? Janet Bedell from Tucson, how's it going, Janet? Let's see. Samantha Wilbur Lakins says, I can't wait. Me neither. It's gonna be a fun one. What's up, Lydia? Hi, Lydia. Hey, Lydia, did you paint yesterday on our Jack and Sally one? I thought I saw you pop up somewhere. But again, comments were flying by so quickly, there was no way for me to be able to keep up with all of them. Logan Allgood, how's it going? Painted last night, it was terrific. Awesome. Fantastic, Logan. I'm glad that you joined us last night. So again, for those of you that are just kind of jumping on, last night we did Jack and Sally, and that was a crazy event. It was a really long event. We painted for about 3 hours and 40 minutes or something like that. I was not expecting that it was going to take as long as it did, but had a whole bunch of people that stuck around through the end. It was pretty insane. Lots of people sending me their pictures, and I shared a whole bunch of them last night. And then, like, by the morning, I probably had another 100 pictures that were sent over to me of people's paintings. So it was a lot of fun. Anyway, I will be asking you guys, when you guys are all done with the painting today or tomorrow, whenever you guys finish it, to send me pictures of your masterpieces. I like to see what you guys create with me. It really makes me happy to see them. And I do like to share them. I share them as much as I can. I don't always have time. I'm super busy with the page and my own personal life and everything else. So it's difficult to stay on top of all the stuff that comes through. But I do appreciate you guys sending pictures to me. So please send those out. Okay? Ashley Brady says, I don't have time to do this now, but looking forward to it later. Still have to finish my Jack and Sally. So yeah, guys, just want to say, today we're probably going to be painting for about 2.5 hours. Okay? If you don't have the time to paint for the entire time, don't worry, stick around, paint as long as you can. The video will be available afterwards when this is all done. The recorded version of this live session will be available on my Facebook page. Just look at the live tab. On top of the page, there's a little tab that says live. Click on that, you'll see all the past videos that I've saved to the page. This one will be on there as well. So paint for as long as you can, and then when you have to take off, no worries, take off, and then you can come back and paint the rest of it later. You'll just go back to the video and start it off wherever you left off, okay? So yes, if you don't have time to finish today, the video will be available for you to view later on. So don't stress out about it. Also, if you're painting along and you fall behind, okay, same thing. Don't stress out, don't freak out, oh my gosh, I'm not gonna finish, or this is gonna come out bad. Just know that the video will be available for you to go back to later on. So that's another important bit of information. I get that question a lot, and I just want to make sure that everybody understands. All these videos stay up at least for another 2-3 weeks, another month maybe. It just depends. I'll eventually probably move them off of Facebook, but I'm not sure yet. We'll see. Okay. But anyway, Nancy Haig says hello from Waterville, Maine. We'll paint this later. Fantastic. Brenda Glaspie Shepherd, my pleasure. All right, guys, let's talk a little bit about how this works. For those of you that are new, I will repeat this when we get started. So the way this works, I will do something up here. I'm going to have a blank canvas set up in the front. I bring the camera forward. Everything's nice and close. I show you a step over here, and then I give you a little bit of time to do it on your end. Probably a minute, 2 minutes. It just depends on the complexity of the step that I just showed you. So that's the way the entire process works. I show you something on my side, and then I give you a little bit to do it. In between those steps, I look at your questions. I say hello to some of you. I do talk. There is some interaction that happens. You guys can talk to each other in the comment section. You guys can say hello to each other. Again, don't click on any links that might pop up. Scammers do like to put links in the comment section to try to lure you to some other site. Stay right here on Painting with Jesse. Don't touch those links. Stay away from them. Okay? So we take our time with this. We have kind of a medium pace. I've found a pace that I think works for most people. Undoubtedly, though, some of you will be a little bit rushed. Some of you are going to fall behind. Try to do your best to stay with me, right? I'll explain the parts of the steps that are really crucial that you get down today, or on the recorded version, I'll explain, right? Hey, this is an important step. For you to be able to go on to the next step, this is an important step that you need to get down now, right? Especially things like the background. Those are very important. The rest of the stuff that we build over the background can be done at a later time. Or you can jump around in between steps as we're going, but the background is important that you get down on the first step. Okay, so that's basically how this is going to work. I'll explain more as we start. But Laura Goodwin Polk, how's it going from Birmingham, Alabama? Fantastic. Thank you for being here. So this is Lisa Vellucci Romeo asks, what size canvas this is. This is a 16 by 20 inch. It looks a lot bigger on the screen because it's in front of me. It's only a 16 by 20 inch, but hang on one sec. I'll show you what that looks like with me holding it. Right? It's not that big. It just looks really big because of the distance between me and the canvas on camera. So this is the size 16 by 20. I just noticed that too. It looks gigantic. But anyway, 16 by 20 is what I'm using. You can use whatever you want. You'll just work on the proportions, shortening them up a little bit, as we go. Okay? So anyway, Shona Thomas Hamilton says, hi Jesse, I can't wait to do this. Hello, how's it going, Shona? Or Shauna, I'm not sure. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that correctly. So let's talk about our colors. It's not quite 11 o'clock, but here are the colors that I'm going to be using. All right, let me come up to the camera. Any version of this that you guys have, that's what you'll use. Don't stress too much about if you don't have the exact colors. You can modify the piece however you want. But the colors that I'm going to be using, white and some black, some yellow, some basic red and orange, some green, some blue, and some brown. These are the basic colors. I'll be mixing some of these colors together to create, shades or different colors. Like for example, the gray on the barn itself, right? I'll be mixing a little bit of black, a little bit of white for that. The rooftop is a little bit of a rusty kind of color. I mix a little bit of brown, a touch of red, maybe a little bit of white for that. So I'll talk about those steps as we go along, but this is the palette that I'm going to be using. If you're new to painting, this is acrylic paint. Okay, if you don't have acrylic paint and you're working with watercolors, chalk, pastels, whatever it is that you have, that's what you'll use. Colored pencils, markers, all up to you. Okay, I like to have a couple of plates on hand, usually 2-3 plates, because I do use these extra plates to mix my colors on. I also have a set of brushes. Now, I have a whole bunch of brushes in this cup sitting in some water. Okay, you want to make sure that you have some water. Brushes sit in there in between steps. As we jump back and forth with the painting, the brushes sit inside the cup with water so that the paint doesn't dry out and ruin your brushes. Okay, I'll talk more about the brushes here in a little bit. I have paper towels, very handy. Messes happen, lifesavers. And then I'm not going to be doing much drawing. I'm probably going to be doing the majority of the drawing with my brushes. So, but if you want to have a pencil with an eraser, maybe as an option, some of you might want to be drawing using that. Okay. So pretty basic, guys. It is 11:01. I'm not sure. So Samantha Wilbur, are you asking about this tree over here? No, I haven't done this one yet. That's coming. This tree, this guy right here, is coming in November. Okay, I don't have a date yet, but that is coming up in November. All right. We've done this guy over here, of course, Jack and Sally. We've done this one here. The beach scene over here, we've done. So we've done the sugar school back here. Those videos are all available under the live tab if you guys want to go back and do those. You can watch. The cool thing about watching the pre-recorded ones is you can pause and you can jump ahead or jump back, right? The fun thing though with the live version is there's interaction. We get to kind of talk a little bit and all that good stuff. So, but anyway, oh, the one behind me, this one or this one? Sorry, I'm not sure which one. So we haven't done this. We have done this one. We haven't done this one here. I think that's what you're talking about. So that's another one, another future one that we'll be doing. All right, guys. So here we go. Let's get set up. I'm gonna come up to the front. Go ahead and get yourselves nice and set up. Grab your drinks and your snacks. We're gonna get right into this. We don't waste too much time around here. I seem to have lost my canvas. Found it. Give me 1 second while I grab my easel, my other easel. Especially at the beginning, we take a little bit of time to develop the background. Okay, then we pick it up. As I mentioned at the beginning, before maybe some of you guys were on, we are going to be painting for about 2.5 hours. Okay, approximately. It could take a little bit more or a little bit less. My goal is to be done within about 2.5 hours. Some of you undoubtedly won't finish. That's okay. Do as much as you can, and then know that the video will be available right after the live session's over for you to be able to go back and start off, go back wherever you left off. Okay, so don't stress about Jesse's going too fast, etc. Again, I'm going to repeat this. I try to create a pace that's going to allow most of you to finish with me, right? Along with me. However, everybody paints at a different pace, and also depends on your experience, all that good stuff. So, but what I don't want you guys to do is to stress out about not being able to finish, because you will be able to go back and do this, continue the video on your own later. Again, please try to stay with me though as much as you can. Okay, part of the fun is painting live. Let me see that I got everything in view. I'm going to adjust my camera a little bit more here to get both the main picture and my white canvas in view. There we go. But anyhow, just know that again, I do a step up here. First thing we're going to be working on is the background. Okay, I do a step up front, and then I give you guys a little time to do it. In between steps, I look at the comment sections to answer questions, say hello to some of you, etc., etc. Okay, bring my paints up here to the front, my brushes to the front as well, and we are about to get started. Now, I'm sure you guys noticed by now, most of you have, whatever it is that you're painting on, I set up my canvas horizontally, long ways, right? Long ways horizontally. You can have yours vertical if you want, where it's longer the other way around, or maybe you're painting on a square canvas. That's all up to you. Everything on this piece is open to you guys to change up. It's your painting, and I want you guys to be happy with it. So just kind of keep that in mind. So here are my brushes. What brush am I going to start with? Okay, I've got this little 1/2 inch flat brush that I'm going to be using to start blocking in my barn. By blocking in, I basically mean I'm going to be drawing it in a really light neutral color, gray. I'm just going to kind of block it in a little bit to place it onto the canvas. Okay, so that's what we're going to start with. But some of the other brushes that I've got that I might use, I'm not sure yet. I've got this 1 inch brush. Okay, and then I got this 2 inch brush. Probably the 2 inch brush isn't going to be seeing too much action, but it might, especially towards the front when I lay down the background for the flowers. I got this large 2 inch flat brush. Also, all my brushes are flat except for my little tiny, and flat is a type of brush for those of you that may not be familiar with it. With that, I've got a little tiny 1/2 inch, or sorry, 1/4 of an inch flat brush. And then I got a little tiny liner brush, a little skinny brush we're going to be doing some details with. Okay? So, are we ready? I'm going to give you guys about 30 seconds to get going here. I'm going to mix a little bit of black and white, okay, to get some gray, to create some gray. Don't need a lot of this color right now. I'm just blocking in my barn. Okay, so I'm going to take another little extra plate here. I'm going to take a little bit of my white. So you guys are basically kind of following along, right? Maybe your barn's going to be red. Maybe your barn's going to be a different color. I don't know. It's all up to you guys. But in this case, I'm mixing a little bit of red. I'm sorry, a little bit of white, a little bit of black. I'm also taking my brush. I dip it into my water cup just to bring a little water over, and I allow that to drip into my paint. I want this paint right here to be nice and thin. I thin it out with some water. Okay, so here we go. My barn. Peak of my barn. My barn is slightly left of center, right? Slightly left of center. My barn, the top of my barn, this part right here is about in here, which is basically if you took the middle of your canvas, if it's horizontally, take the middle of your canvas, move over to the left a little bit. That's where you're going to make a little mark. And there's nothing crucial to any of this. You can change this up, right? You can move your barn over to the right, over to the left. What I'm trying to say is, don't stress too much if your barn isn't perfectly where mine is. Just kind of going to mark off that little peak right there. So this guy is about this right here. Okay. All right. Once you've got that little point in place, you want to come over to the left a little bit and mark where the edge of your barn is going to be. The edge of my barn, this wall right here, is about right here. Notice I'm doing this really lightly. This is really, again, a really thin paint. I can go in there and remove it. If I don't like it, I can erase it really easily. I can just wipe that off with a paper towel, napkin, whatever I've got. Okay. So the barn, this is one edge. This is this side of the barn. I'm going to go over to the other side, and the other side of my barn is going to be about right here. Okay, about like this. So I'm just, again, kind of blocking in the edges of my barn at this point. Once I've got that, I'm simply going to come across and connect all of that. Take a little step back from time to time, look at your handiwork, compare it to what's happening over here. You don't have to make an exact replica of what I've got. Just kind of do your best and make some choices, make some of your own choices. Okay? So now, here we go. Let's draw a little bit, the rooftop. Now I just noticed I'm going to bring my little peak up a little bit higher. Okay, I'm making a little adjustment there. You draw a little line to connect my barn right there. That, of course, is my roof line right in there. Samantha Wilbur Lakins, you can. So you can do this. Sorry, I apologize. You can be doing this in pencil if you'd like. If you're more comfortable with a pencil, absolutely, you can use a pencil on this part of it. Okay, I'm doing it with my paint. It just, because it's such a thin mixture of water and paint, I can go in there and erase this. Okay, no problem. I can wipe it off, no problem. I'll show you real quick. But if you want to do this in pencil, you can. I know some of you that are used to maybe some of my other tutorials, some of my more recent tutorials, you've seen me blocking my stuff in pencil. But watch this. Okay, even if there's a little bit left behind, that's okay. I'll cover all that up with paint. Okay, okay. Now we're gonna go other side. A little roof line over there is right about like this. That of course is that. Now I'm painting over from the side, usually right in front of my canvas, so some of my proportions may be a little bit off, but no big deal. Then from there, we're simply gonna bring this up, and I can make it a little steeper now if I want to make an adjustment. Bring it a little higher. I do want to leave some space up on top for my rooster, so I don't want to go too high. And then I'm gonna go ahead and bring that top of the roof over this side. I also want to have some room up in here for my tree, little tree back here. I'm going to have a hill towards the back with the tree line. Okay. All right, let's see. So you guys go ahead and work on that a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and go through some of the comments, see what we've got, see if we have any other questions. So again, if you feel more comfortable doing this with a pencil, you can. I'm not able to scroll back in my comments section here. There we go. Janet Solis Aguilar, just joining from Texas. Butler Ella, how does this work? Am I just watching him in paint? Watching him in paint. Basically, you want to repeat the steps that I've got up here, right? So I do something up here, and then you do it on your end. All right, Diana Gone, how's it going? Diana's gone. Diana's gone. Diana Gone is back. Hello from Frisco, Texas. All right, so we got our little barn blocked in. Take a little step back, look at your handiwork. I can already tell there's a difference between this and that one. I've got this one a little bit higher, a little closer to the top than I probably initially wanted, but that's okay. Not that big of a deal. I can work with that. Okay, if I really wanted to, I could remove some of this and bring it down a little bit. Wouldn't be much work. I'm not going to bother with that because this is pretty close to what I want. Now I'm going to go ahead and switch brushes. I'm going to grab a slightly bigger brush. This is my 1/2 inch. I'm going over to my inch brush. This guy right here. What I am going to do is I'm going to squeeze out some of the extra water that's in this brush. I want to do this. I don't want a drippy brush, so I squeeze out that extra water. I'm going to take a little bit more black and a little bit more white. This mixture is going to be a little thicker. Okay, a little bit thicker. Now that I've got my barn blocked in, I'm going to take kind of an in-between color, an in-between gray. So this is my dark, almost black areas, and I got some light, really light, almost white areas. This is kind of an in-between color, kind of. Okay, now I'm going to do this. So I'm going to draw some lines in my barn. Okay, this is kind of an impressionistic barn. Impressionism, painting with a little bit of impressionism here. There's not a whole lot of definition in our barn. Okay, so right over here somewhere, this is our back wall, the side wall. This is the front of the barn, and then this is also part of the front, but this is an open area. I'm not sure if you guys can tell over there. Kind of a little abstractish. And here I'm just going to brush sideways. Okay, like this. Okay. Over here, and I'm going to give you guys a moment to catch up here in just a bit. I'm going to brush vertically, long brush strokes. I'm creating the base for later on are going to be our boards, right? The boards on the wall. And again, this paint's a little thicker. It doesn't have to be all uniform, one color. There can be some variations in the color. Okay, if you guys are just joining us, don't forget this video will be available later. You can always come back to it. Okay, so vertical brush strokes, horizontal brush strokes. Have a little bit of a separation between this side, so this section over here, and then this section right in here. In here, you're gonna give me a little line. So here's the little corner where the roof comes down and then changes angles. You're gonna come right in here. Just give me a nice little line that comes across. And then maybe do another one right up in here. These aren't going to be super visible as you're painting, but it'll make sense. You will be able to kind of see these as we add paint around them. So I'm just mixing a little bit more of the same color. It doesn't have to be perfectly the same color, as long as there's kind of a close gray to what I've got in here. I'm just going to come in here. I'm going to do this vertical. I'm using the skinny part of my brush now. Just coming in here and doing this. So the base, what we're creating right now, with all the background colors, this includes what we're doing right now with the barn, is all crucial, okay? You want to do your best to keep up with me for this part of it. When we start putting layers on top of this stuff, it's okay if you fall a little bit behind. You can jump around with me. I'll explain what I'm talking about here a little bit later. But for now, just try to do your best to keep up. So right here I'm using these skinny vertical strokes, horizontal strokes. And I'm going to do the same thing right in here. At the beginning, everyone's barns are going to look kind of like, what the heck is that? Like maybe, a little 3-year-old painted it. That's how this is going to work. If yours looks kind of like mine, we're good. So right in here, I'm just leaving these little divisions or separations somewhat in between my brush strokes. Okay? Put my brush down. I'm going to go through the comments. See what we got while you guys are catching up. There's a little bit of a... That's right, Amy. So yeah, it's a little bit about, Amy Dusenberry says, I wondered how you got the old barn look. I forgot about loading the brush in multiple colors. So yeah, there's a layering process. As we move in a little bit, once you guys are all cut up to this is all we're doing to the barn for now. We're gonna start creating the sky, the blue sky in the background, the base for the trees and the hill, and then even the base for the front. While we're doing all that, your barn is going to be drying. By the time we're all done with all that, your barn is dry, and we're going to be ready to start layering over the top of this. It's a slow buildup. Okay, the most complicated part of all this is the barn, kind of for obvious reasons. Everything else, but everything does require a little bit of layering. If you're newer to painting, there's a patience that's required. Okay, if you're trying to create something that's a little complex, kind of like what this is, there's patience that's needed because there's plenty of steps involved. Okay, so anyhow, that's what we're doing right now. Let's see, Chrissy Snow says, I'm doing a red barn, but I don't want a pink barn. Should I do a little black in the paint? So no, for now, Chrissy, go ahead and just stick with a bit of white and a bit of red. Later on, as you layer it, you can come in with deeper colors, and you can mix. I would probably mix a little bit of brown into the red, and then a little bit of maybe a touch of black or even blue to that mixture to create the deeper tones. There's obviously variations of color that you're going to be using within your barn, but your base coat is some color that's in between your darkest and your lightest. So if you've got a pinkish color right now because it's blending with that white, or maybe you got some of that white of the canvas bleeding through, that's okay. It'll make more sense as we go along, okay? But yeah, you're okay. What's up, Kelly Severe from Sacramento? How are you? Hi, Anna. Let me see. Yeah, so just really quick, if you're kind of jumping in right now, all I did was mix a little bit of white, a little bit of black to create kind of a gray that's in between my darkest area and my lightest area. And I just put, and again, it's just kind of it's an about, okay? All right, guys, you guys got about 30 seconds, or we're going to start working on the light blue in the background. If you're already ready to go to that next step, I'm going to mix a really little tiny bit of light blue, or little tiny bit of blue with some white to create a really, really light blue sky. Okay, so I'm going to be using the same 1-inch brush, so I'm going to clean this up a little bit. And what I do is I'll take my brush, since I've got water in my water cup, I just kind of swirl it around in here, take off as much of that gray as I can. Doesn't have to be completely clean, because the gray is kind of a light color. If it mixes in a little bit with my light blue mixture, it's not the end of the world, but I am going to try to remove most of it. So I'll do that. Then I'll grab my paper towel. I'll squeeze out some of that excess. Now I can take some white. There's a little bit of gray mixed into my white here on my plate, not that big of a deal. I'll take some of this white, I bring it over to a clean part on my plate. I'm going to take a touch of blue. The darker the color, the less you need to mix in when you're trying to create a light version of that. Okay? And so you can all work on how deep a blue you want. Everybody's blue can be a different tone, different shade. If you want a deeper blue, then you're going to use more blue, right? If you want a lighter blue, then you use more white. But I'm about right there. Okay, that's about the color that I want. All I'm going to do is I'm going to do this. So about where my tree over here on the left is going to be, I'm just going to block it out. The tree's going to be down in here. Okay. Where my hill is going to be, over on this side, with the trees over it, I'm just going to do a little bit of this. Again, I'm drawing a little bit with my brush. Goes up the hill a little bit, and this is just a really rough edge that I'm creating. This is the edge line for those trees. Okay. Later on, when I start to add the green, this can change a bit. I just want a visual so that I know where my hillside is going to be. And I'm just going to connect that to the barn right there. Once I've done that, I'm going to come in here with a little bit more of this paint. So I'm going to mix it really quickly. Again, folks, you want to try to keep up with me. Don't stick to one part too long. Move along with me, but it is important that we get our background all in place. Now watch what I do with my brush strokes in here. I do kind of a crisscross pattern. This layer of paint is not very thick. Actually very thin. All I'm really worried about is that I cover up all the white of the canvas. When I get to the edge of my barn, again, I'm using my 1-inch brush here. When I get to the edge of my barn, I'm just going to take the skinny edge of the brush and kind of do this to both sides. And then I come in here and continue. Now, whatever tone of blue you're adding right now may end up changing later, right? You might make it a little lighter. You might add another layer over it that makes it darker. For now, don't worry too much if it's not necessarily exactly the blue that you envisioned, because as you go along and you continue with the painting, your idea of what the blue you wanted to have might change. You might actually like what you've got right now, and if you don't, you can simply go and add another layer over the top with the actual color that you want. Acrylic paint dries very quickly, which allows you to, in one sitting, complete an entire painting. Oil paints, for example, require, depending on the type of painting that you're making, require drying time of sometimes days. So, anyhow, you guys get idea. Again, crisscross pattern is what I'm using here. Just brushing, using my brush, holding it back here, back of the handle, nice and loose. I don't come up here super tight. No need for that. Just want to cover up the entire back area of above my tree line and over my barn. One thing that I like to do is paint my edges. So often I'll use the color that I use on the front and I'll match the edges all the way around. I'm not going to do that today, but you could if you want. This blue, you could add all the way around if you want, whatever color you want on the edges. But you could also take whatever color you use on the front. If it touches the side, the edge of your canvas, then you can use that color to color that in. I'm going to leave my edges white in this case. All right, give you guys about a minute to catch up on that. Let me see what we got with questions or comments. I'm going to turn up a little bit of music here in just a bit. Anna, so I'm using acrylic, okay? The paint that I'm using today is acrylic, and it's just a gloss. It's a gloss. I think you're asking what type of finish it has. So mine's a glossy, a slightly glossier type of acrylic paint. Probably in between a matte and a gloss. It's not super glossy. It's kind of in between. Satin maybe, satinish, but I mix them up a little bit, not always on purpose. But the paint that I'm using today is this brand right here, this Artist Loft brand. Okay, and this tends to have a little bit of a glossier finish than a lot of the other acrylic paints that I see. Okay, but not super important unless you're actually looking for a particular finish. But this right here will look. The paint that I'm using right now will look like this. Okay. So again, guys, just want to remind everyone, the video to this will be available for you to watch whenever you'd like. After the live session is over, you're going to go over to let's say you come back later today or tomorrow, you're going to go over to the live tab. On my Painting with Jesse page at the top, you'll see it says live, little tab. You click on that, it opens up shows you all the videos that I've done in the past. All right, so here we go. I'm going to switch brushes for the moment. We're about to do a little bit of green, we're going to block in our trees. I'm switching over to my 1/2-inch brush. If you guys don't have a 1/2-inch brush and you've got an inch brush, 1/4-inch brush, doesn't really matter too much. Okay, type of brush selection is important. If you got something similar to this, you're good. This is a flat brush. Again, I like to use synthetic bristle brushes. They're easy to maintain, easy they last a long time, easy to clean. Okay, so I've got some green on my plate. Some kind of a deep green. I'm going to grab a little bit of that green. I'm going to mix it with a little bit of yellow. So I'm going to take this. I'm going to take a chunk of this. Again, this is our background color, so I don't need to make it really thick. Just kind of bring some over to my plate. I'm going to take a little bit of yellow, and I'm going to mix the two together. So I get kind of an in-between mixture. And it doesn't have to be perfectly uniform. I can have a little bit of yellow peeking through. It can have a little bit of green peeking through. I'm not too worried about anything other than that I've got kind of a light greenish color. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to make the shape of my hill. So I'm going to start right up in here. My hill kind of comes down. And again, folks, we can always adjust this later. Okay, right now we're just blocking things out. If you notice, my hillside on the original is a lot higher. On this new one, my hillside's a little bit lower. No big deal. I can adjust that if I want later, but that's not super crucial. So this right in here is where my hillside is. Now I'm going to come in here and again using kind of a crisscross pattern. I'm just going to shape in a few little trees. It's not going to look like much for now, but later when we add more detail, I'm going to start looking like trees. Keep up, folks. This background part is important. I can't go too quickly, and I can't go so slowly that we end up painting for a long, long time. Because we can. As I mentioned at the beginning, last night we did Jack and Sally for Nightmare Before Christmas. We painted for 3 hours and 40 minutes. I know. Right over here on the side of my barn, I'm going to come like this, right towards the bottom near the floor. I'm going to do this. And then, of course, I'm going to kind of do a little of that. And I'm going to outline my barn first. You guys notice these are all loose lines. I'm not sitting here busting out a ruler trying to make them perfectly straight. I'm holding my brush toward the back of the handle. The brush strokes aren't really defined. Try to copy me, mimic me a little bit. Everyone has their own style. You'll develop your own style. Maybe some of you already have a style, depending on how long you've been painting. But if you're newer to painting, your style will develop as you go. You can watch a lot of painters, right? You can watch all kinds of people paint, and you will learn a lot simply from watching. But part of it is to relax. Try to relax as you're painting. And the way you hold your brush makes a big difference. Now here on my tree, if I wanted to make it taller, I could simply come in here and do this, right up into the blue. Nothing wrong with that. Okay, just like that. I just changed how tall my tree is. From time to time, take a little step back, look at your masterpiece in progress. Usually I'll step back a couple feet, 2-3 feet, and I'll try to stand in the center and I'll look at everything just to see if I need to make any adjustments. Is there anything that I want to change? Now's when you want to do that. Okay. So, all right, work on that for just a bit. You guys got about 2 minutes to get caught up on that. Let's take a look at our questions, if there are any. Awesome. Amy, yeah, if you don't want trees over here, folks, and you want a mountain, just mountain or mountains in the background, go for it. Again, everything on this piece is optional. If you guys want purple flowers, maybe you guys want violets or irises. Violets? Yeah. Irises, or you want daisies, you want sunflowers, whatever flowers you want, that's what you're going to do, right? Again, the color of your barn can be different. Maybe your hillside's green. Maybe your hillside's full of flowers. I don't know. It's all up to you guys. You guys notice I have a little fence, a little wooden fence way back there, and then I got a wooden fence that peeks out around the back. You know, yours may be black. Yours might be white. Yours may not have one. So make your choices. It's your painting. I want you guys to be happy. All right. Here we go, everybody. Pretty soon here, we're about to move on to our hillside up in here. Okay. For my hillside, I'm going to be mixing a little bit of yellow, a touch of brown, a touch. If you don't have brown, don't worry about it right now. It's not really super important. If you don't have brown, I think somebody in the comments section, actually earlier, somebody sent me a message. They didn't have brown. You can actually make your brown by mixing red, blue, and yellow. Okay, you can make some brown by mixing those colors, blue, yellow, and red, right? So if you don't happen to have any of that brown and you want brown, you would mix those 3 colors together and you'll make brown. So I'm going to take a little bit of yellow. I'm going to be using my plate. I'm going to switch back over to my large 1-inch brush. I do want to clean it up just a touch. Remove some of that light blue, although it's not super important for this step. So clean it up just a tad. So I've got some yellow. I'm going to scoop up some yellow. Bring it over to my plate. I'm going to grab a little bit of brown. Don't need too much brown for this step. It's a really dark color. And again, the darker the color, the less of it you need when you're mixing. Now I'm going to take a little bit of white to bring that up a bit. And you guys will notice the colors that I use on my painting here might vary slightly in how rich. Might be a different tone, might be a brighter or darker color than I've got on the original. No big deal. It can look a little different, and there's nothing wrong with that. So here we go. Here's my color that I'm going to use. So what I'm going to do now is simply come over here and right about where my roof line is. When my roof line comes down like this, I'm just going to draw a little line across. Again, I don't need a ruler or anything to measure anything or make sure that's a perfectly straight line. I'm just going to come in here. And if some of that green that's on top that's still a little bit fresh mixes in with the yellow that I'm laying down right now, no worries. You guys notice maybe? I've added a little yellow over the top of the roof by accident, not that big of a deal. All right. There we go. You guys got about a minute on that. All right. Let's see if I can say hello to some people in the background. Actually, you know what? Let me get some music up. I can't. For those of you that are new, just so you guys know, my music selection is limited to music that is copyright free. I can't use any copyrighted music because Facebook will find me and they will mute my video or they'll altogether remove it. So I've got to find music that is copyright free. Just want to let you guys know that this music that I'm about to play you will not recognize. So if you finish with your little hillside, go ahead and look around, see if there's anything else that you might need to touch up. Alright guys, my laptop's being a little weird, so we're going to wait a moment on that. Alright folks, so here we go. Next step. Here's what I want to do next. I'm going to drop in a little lime green background where these flowers are going to sit. I'm going to do like a little bit of a lime green. If yours is just a light green or darker green, not that big of a deal. But making it a little bit lighter will make these flowers that you're going to put over the top, if you're planning on putting flowers there, stand out. So I'm going to stick with that scheme. And I'm going to switch over to the same brush that I was using for the trees. Still has some green on it. Okay, I'm just kind of going to do this. Maybe mix a little bit of my hillside yellow to the mixture. As long as it's kind of a light lime green color, that's all you really need. Right in here. Bring this over right up to the barn. And again, notice my brush strokes. Nothing fancy about this. Nothing fancy to see here. At least not at the moment. We'll get a little fancier later. For right now, no need for fancy. There we go. So basic colors, Anna. Basic colors on paint. The basic colors that I like to get. These are these large acrylic bottles that I pick up, the Artist Loft brand that I get from Michael's. These come in these large liter bottles, and they're usually about $10. But if you get them when they're on sale, or if you use one of their coupons, you can usually find these for at least 40% off. These last a really long time. I get them in red, blue, black, yellow, green, white, and I think that's all. Those are the only colors that they've got. They got the basic colors: red, blue, black, red. Did I say that? Blue, black, red, yellow, green. Green. They also have green in these. Any colors that they don't have, I'll go buy different. I'll get the different brands. They've also got this really cool fluorescent green that comes in handy. So again, that's the Artist Loft brand from Michaels. Another brand that I like to use, to my other brands that I like to use, is this Anita's All-Purpose Acrylic Craft Paint. I picked this up at Hobby Lobby. Okay, again, larger bottles. Usually the larger the bottle, the cheaper you save, right? You save some money. Oh, those large liter bottles for Michaels also come in silver and gold. But this other brand right here, I pick it up at Hobby Lobby. Fine Touch. This is a deeper, richer color, thicker paint. A little more expensive, but really rich tones on this one. Okay, so I'll use a mixture of all these three paint brands, and that's all you really need. You don't need it to get. You don't need to get super fancy on your paints. But all right, folks, here we go. Here's what we're gonna do next. We're gonna lay down a light bluish green all up in the front here, kind of like what we did up here. We're gonna put all that down in here. Notice, by now your barn should be dry, your sky should be dry, your green on your trees should be, for the most part, pretty dry. So I'm going to use my 2-inch brush. Since I got it right here, it's staring at me going, "Hey Jesse, are you going to use me today or what?" This guy right here. Just going to squeeze out some of the extra water. I did have it sitting in the water cup. I'm going to grab a different plate. Different plate. I'm going to grab just a touch of blue. Don't need much. A little bit of green, maybe a little bit more green than I use blue. And then I'm also going to take some white. In that background, we've got a really light color for our base. So I'm going to take some of this white. Oh, here's one more brand that I use. Deco Art, Americana. Pick this up at Hobby Lobby. This is a more liquidy paint. Thick, or I should say, it floats, a more fluid paint. Not so much that it's a little thick, but it flows nicely, covers quite a bit. So taking a little bit of blue, a little bit of green, kind of creating a light base in here. And I need this color to cover all of this in here. So from here across, and it's going to be a similar color to this lime green in there, toned a little bit more bluish. It's going to create the base for our flowers. It doesn't really matter what color flowers you're going to have. And it doesn't have to be a perfectly uniform color. Here we go. In this case here, I can paint horizontally, doesn't matter too much. The horizontal brush strokes make a smoother coat, which can be useful for this bed of flowers, but I can also, if I want, use the crisscross pattern that I used up in the sky. Again, it's nice and loose. I work quickly on this because it's not super important that this has any real detail to it. It's just the base coat. From time to time, I'll reach over to my water cup, dip my brush in there to get some water, add it to my mixture, and then it makes it so it's easier to apply the paint onto the canvas. Thins out the paint a bit, but it also makes it easier to spread this paint onto the canvas. All right, just like that, we got our entire background in place, okay? So work on that for just a touch, for just a little bit. While I try to set up my music. All right. Samantha Wilbur Lakins. Yep, Hobby Lobby is awesome. Love it too. So many cool, so much cool stuff there. Just a lot of stuff. For some reason, I'm not able to open up another tab on my laptop. It looks like it's frozen, so we're gonna have to do this the hard way. Facebook sound selection. There we go. Let's see. Give me some music. Okay. We're going to start a little happy music today. The Facebook, courtesy of the Facebook sound collection. If I could. All right. Okay, folks. So you guys got about 30 seconds to finish this up. And we're going to start adding some detail to our painting. We're going to start with our barn. Okay, we're going to start with our barn. We're going to move up to the sky a little bit to do another layer over the top of it. We're going to move into our trees. And then we'll see where we go from there. Okay? So what you're going to do in a moment is we start on the barn. You're going to switch over to one of your smaller brushes. I'm going to continue with my 1/4" brush. And I'm going to create a very dark gray. Okay, so my 1/4" brush. Again, the important part of all this, as of for now, is that you have your entire background blocked in. Okay. But what I'm going to do right now, I've got my mix plate here. Whoops, dipped it into my yellow by accident. I'm going to take a little bit of black, bring that over. Really deep gray, it's almost black. It could be black if you want it to be, but this is an almost black color that I'm creating here. Against the light color of the barn, it's going to almost look black. Okay? So here we go. Right down in here, we've got our barn opening. So here's our little peak on our roof, and I may have to make some adjustments to that roof a little bit to even things out a touch. But right in here is where my barn door is going to be, slightly over. If you've got your peak right here, move over to the left a little bit. Whoops, I accidentally put some black paint right there. I'm not worried about that. Right down in here where we made this line that goes across, you probably can barely see it on yours. I'm just going to do this. Okay? A little loose line. And you can see I got some drippy paint right in there. Want to clean that up just a touch. Want to avoid drippy paint for these steps, so I'm going to take a little more paint, mix it in to thicken up my mixture. Now, from right in here, I'm going to block out a little door. Okay? That, of course, is that. Adriana, you are missing the fun. But maybe you'll watch this. You'll watch this later, huh? Okay. Once you got your little doorway blocked in, you're going to come up here to the top, and right above it, you got your little second story opening Maybe it's a little thinner on yours like mine is going to be, or maybe it's the same width as that. Probably make it a little bit bigger, or maybe it's a window, a long window on yours. Nice and loose, folks. This is an impressionistic barn. There's no super detail. If you were to get up really close to my original painting here, let me show you what that looks like, see if you can capture some of the detail. There is not a whole lot of super detail. Okay, it just looks like there is because of it's just a little bit of magic, brushwork magic. And I did not place my phone that I'm using for this live feed on silent mode, so if there's any vibrations or anything that come through, I do apologize about that. I just realized right now that my phone is not on silent mode. So my apologies if there's any external sounds. I just lowered everything, but I didn't put it on Do Not Disturb. Okay, let's continue with our barn. A little more paint on my brush. I'm just going to come over here, right in here where this separation is. It's a little hard to see, right where I start, where I have my horizontal brush strokes. I'm just going to come in here, little skinny part of my brush, holding it like this. Just making a little line right in there. Just going to add a few little details up in here. Over here, I'm just going to lightly kind of brush. My brush is barely touching the canvas, very lightly. It obviously allows for less paint to go onto the canvas. There's not a whole lot to this, folks. What you're seeing is kind of what's happening, right? What you see me doing with the brush, I'm just touching the canvas a little bit, allowing some of that paint to brush on to the canvas. We're creating some dark areas on our barn. Just try to mimic what I'm doing. If you're using a different color, let's say you're using, you're painting a red barn, so this is a deeper red color. You can add a little bit of brown or a little bit of black to it, a little bit of blue even, to give you some darker areas. But you can also even use black on your red barn if you wanted to. Okay, and continue with this black up in here where the sidewall starts. I'm just going to come up in here and maybe give me a little line that goes like that. Here's the edge of my brush. Put in some little dark areas, darker sections. Thick part of my brush. Remember, folks, do your best to try to keep up, but don't stress too much if you start to fall behind. When you see me move away from the barn, we're not going to finish all the barn up on this one step. We're layering things. But when you see me move away from the barn, even if you don't have everything that I've got on it, try to do your best to do so. Move with me. Okay, move with me so you don't fall behind on the other parts. Right over here, towards the back of our barn. Maybe a couple little lines in here. If you're newer to painting, tell your brain to relax a little bit, to not stress. At first, things don't make that much sense, but they'll slowly start to develop. Okay, so tell your brain, just kind of chill out a little bit. Okay, where else can I add some more little marks? I'm going to switch brushes. I'm going to switch over to a smaller brush. That was my 1/2-inch brush, and I'm going to switch to little 1/2-inch brush. Little 1/4-inch brush. Same flat shape. Same paint color I'm using right now. Okay, I'm going to take this, I'm going to make some little skinny lines across. Okay. We do the same thing on the other side. Again, folks, we're going to paint. So we started at 11. We're going to paint for about 2.5 hours. So what is that? 1:30? So about. Okay, again, about. Okay, little lines across. And we're going to do the same thing vertically up here. Skinny little. Sometimes you can see a lot of the lines. Sometimes you see just a little bit of it. It can be a little crooked, slightly angled. Got a nice long board that sits across the top in here. Maybe I'm going to outline the top of it. Okay, I'm going to give you guys a little bit to catch up. Let me see your comments, see if we got anything new. So while you guys are doing a little fancy work there on your barn, or not so fancy work, because this isn't quite fancy just yet. Just want to give you guys all a great thank you for being here with me. Wherever you guys are, wherever you're joining me from, I really do appreciate it. A toast to all of you. I'm drinking a little hibiscus drink. So toast to all you guys, wherever you are. Thank you, thank you. Happy painting. Cheers. All right, folks, here we go. Let's move a little bit. So what I'm going to do next is actually, I'm going to continue with the same color, same brush. Just going to add a little more detail, just a little bit. A few more skinny lines over here on this wall. A few little vertical lines. Everyone's barn is going to look a little different. If I have 10 lines across and you have 6, don't worry too much about that. I also do want to put a line up in here where the edge of the roof line is. It goes up like this. Give ourselves a nice little line. So I'm going to find a little spot down in here. Okay, goes like that. Now this is a little thicker than on the original. Later on we'll refine that a little bit. When you get down here to this corner, I want to slightly angle it up. So this is maybe a little bit steeper. The angle towards the back changes a tiny bit. So this line here, so let me see if I can do this with my hands. So this line here will be maybe this kind of angle, and then this angle over here will be slightly less angled. So it'll do something like that. Something like this. So this angle here, and then this one here is a little less of an angle, slightly less. Okay, just a touch. Don't need a whole lot to make a difference. And then we're going to do the same thing. Music stop again. We're going to do the same thing over here. Now I'm going to take more white. I'm going to take more white. I'm going to mix it up in here. So I'm creating a lighter shade of all of this color. Let's see here. Still using my small brush. So much lighter, much lighter. Doesn't have to be perfectly mixed. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go ahead and just do a few little boards. Again, this is an impressionistic barn. So not a whole lot of detail. Why did my music stop here? Did I do something? Come on, Facebook. Huh. We'll figure that out later, I guess. So I got these little boards that you can overlap some of those little lines that we created, some of these black lines. You can overlap them a bit. Okay. Using my little 1/4 inch brush. I'll come across here and do the same thing. Like that. Up here, I'm using the skinny part of the brush, like this. The narrow part of the brush. I'm just going to do a few of these little guys like that. Okay, give you guys a moment to work on that. Try to figure out what's happening with Facebook over here. That's right, Amy. That's how that works. Little tiny changes make a big difference. What's going on, Facebook? You want to play music for me? Okay, let's continue. Okay, more white. So on these boards across here, I can just do part of it, part of each board, a little bit. It's an old barn, so old paint. Some of the paint's already peeled off, dried off, flown away. Whatever color you're using. And then you could also, I'll take a little bit more white to vary the shade a bit. And I'll come over here and just kind of, look how I'm using my brush. Just using the very point of the bristles and just touching up some of the boards part way. Maybe right in here there's a board that comes down and does that. And over here, got some boards that also come across. Just kind of do that. I'm adding a lot more paint to my brush in this case to make this a little thicker. Perhaps over here we got a couple of boards you can still kind of, even though this is in the shaded area of our barn, that wall's under a little bit of shade, a little bit of paint that peeks through. Later on we'll come in and darken that up a little. Okay, right in here. Some of this is a little on the random side, so don't stress too much so you're not copying my exact brush strokes or putting the exact same amount of paint where I am. Don't worry about that. Just find your little spots. Where do you see your barn having more paint peeking through, so, more of the brighter tones and darker tones, all kind of up to you. So again, I'm holding the brush back by the handle, near the back of the handle. I load up, just grab quite a bit of the paint. I'll come in here and just find little spots. And we're creating a bit of an illusion. And if you're up really close to your painting, it may not make a whole lot of sense. But when you step back a little bit is where you start to see kind of the magic. I'm going to take a little bit of this paint right here, right below, right above the black line that we created for the roof line. Just going to add a little bit right in there. Whoops. Again, change with the angle, right? Bring up the angle a little bit. Change the angle just a touch. And we'll do the same thing over here. And then over here. Okay, I'm going to give you guys a little bit to work on that. Take a couple minutes there as I figure out my my music situation. I'm not sure what's happening with Facebook right now. All right, there we go. Got it back. Okay, everyone. So here's what we're gonna do now. Oh, I don't know what's happening with Facebook. The music starts and then stops. Here's what we're gonna do. We're not gonna worry about that for now. So whatever color your roof is, we're gonna mix a little bit of that right now. There's obviously more detail to add to the inside of the barn. We're gonna leave that alone for a bit while this paint kind of dries. The stuff that we added right now dries a bit. We're gonna add a color to our roof, or top of our roof. The shingles are, the covering on top. We're gonna add a little bit of that. One of our smaller brushes, you can use, kind of similar brush size that I had a moment ago. I've also got this little 1/8 inch brush that I'll be using for this step. I'm gonna mix a little for my roof. This is a bit of a rusty color, so I take a little bit of red. Okay, and bring it over here. A little bit of brown. Okay, so it creates a really dark, almost burgundy color, but I'm going to go ahead and bring up the color a bit by adding some white to it. So brown, red, and a little bit of white. And it's kind of a dirty color, let's call it, because it's not perfectly blended. You can see different colors peeking through there. Some of the brown, some of the red. It's an old roof, right? What I'm going to do, this is a very skinny brush. If I press down onto the plate, it squeezes the bristles together to make the area thinner, the top of the brush thinner. Point of the brush. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come across with this color from right here. I'm going to come down. If you guys notice, I went slightly up above my original roof line. So this is where you can see the shingles above the barn. Okay. I did a line that connects from this corner all the way down, slightly elevated above the original line that I've got for the roof. Comes and connects back here. It's probably a little thicker than what I want it to be. I'd like it for it to be a little thinner like that. But watch what I do next. This is an important step. Right down in here, right where our roof line begins to angle back. Remember we were talking about the line goes down and then it angles up just a little bit. We draw a little corner, subtle little corner. Little corner. from there, we're going to connect the edge, okay, kind of like that. So a little tiny corner that drops down and then goes back. So it does that too, right? Drops down a little bit, and it's real subtle, nothing too fancy. But it's real subtle. And a little bit later we'll come in there and touch it up a little bit, but let me see if I can actually, I want to clean this up down here a bit. Taking a paper towel with a little bit of water. This will likely be the most complex part of this whole entire painting for you. You get this down and you'll be all right. Using a little paper towel with a little bit of water and just cleaning up the top a little bit, straightening out my edge a bit. Just a touch. I put my hand that's not painting, I put it up on the canvas here. Allows me, gives me a little stability. There we go. All right. Now on the other side. Just a little tiny bit of the line on top. You can barely see the edge of this color. And then over here, kind of same thing. That's all we're going to do for now in the barn. We're going to move on and work on some of the other stuff. And we're going to come back to the barn. So take about a minute on that. Let's see your questions if there are any. Looks like you guys are all concentrating. All right, let's find a different music source. Let's see. Let's try this. Okay. Okay, everyone, here we go. Let's switch it up. Move away from the barn for a little bit. Don't forget, if you're new to acrylic painting, when you're not using a brush, stick it back into your water cup so it doesn't dry out on you. I'm switching over to my 1-inch brush. I'm going to clean it up a little bit because it has a little bit of black in it. Clean it up just a bit. I'm going to take some white. Don't forget, folks, if any of this is, going too fast, the video will be available for viewing later. I'm just mixing a little bit of white, a little bit of blue, right? Creating that light blue for my sky. I'm gonna start picking things up a bit, speeding things up just a tad, and I'm going to come in here. The music's a little too loud. Let me know it. And I'm just going to do another layer of this light blue above my sky. And it could be a slightly different color than the original that I mixed, not that big of a deal. Remember, I'm using varying brush strokes for this step, crisscross pattern. And go right above my roof line here. Careful that I don't put any of this blue over my roof. With this second layer, your sky becomes a little bit more even tone, even though you don't necessarily have to have a super even tone sky, right? There can be variations in color, but what you don't want to see is any of that canvas bleeding through. Whoops. Good. Try to work quickly. We still got quite a bit of stuff to cover. If you start to fall behind, do your best to kind of keep up, jump ahead, move with me. Like I said, most of this stuff you can go back and add in later. Because there's not a lot going on in the sky. If you left, let's say you were still working on your barn and you didn't get a chance to do this on your sky, you can always come back and add this later. If I move to the trees, which I'm going to do in a second, you want to move with me, okay? So, just want to assure you that you will have time to complete your painting. Okay, so there's my second layer of blue on my sky. I'm going to take quarter-inch brush here, half-inch brush. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take some green. Now I'm going to give you a moment here after this next step. But for those of you that are all the way up ahead with me, this is what I'm going to do with this green. Taking a little bit of thick green paint and brushing it over, layering over the background for my trees. I don't have to cover every single part of the area that's green that I've laid down for the green, for the trees. I'm just going to touch up most of it. Some of the original layer can peek through a little. And later on, it's going to create a little bit of depth, create some, it's going to give it texture and dimension. You're going to see some leaves peeking through. So just going through and doing this. The tree that's in the front, it's a little closer, so it's going to have more detail. The stuff that's in the back, if you're doing trees, will have a lot less. It's further back. You can also use this step right here to refine the edge of your roof. Up in here, you can kind of use the brush to give your tree line a rough edge. And use all parts of the brush. The corners, the flat side. Turn it around as you're doing this. And again, watch, I'm working quickly, right? Not a whole lot of detail is needed on this step, so have some fun. All right, guys, give me about a minute or two to catch up with that. Sorry if the music is distracting for anyone. I will lower it a bit. It was a little loud, so I'll bring it down just a touch. I did notice that while I was talking here a little bit ago. So hopefully that's okay. Let me know, guys, if the music is too loud. Again, guys, if the music gets loud, okay, Ariel, looks like you give me a thumbs up. I think the music is better now, but let me know. If I need to lower the music a little more, let me know. And don't be shy, folks. If you guys have questions, comments, put them in the comments. If you said hi earlier and I didn't get a chance to say hello to you because I didn't see your comment, or you have a question that you asked and I didn't answer it, feel free to put it down now. And the comments are coming in very slowly, so it's a lot easier for me to see your comments, okay? So, all right, guys. About another minute, we're going to move over here to the hillside. We're going to add a little more texture to that. So, let's be ready for that. I'm going to be using my half-inch brush for that step. Sneak peek, everyone. This is a work in progress, but sometime towards the end of November, we're going to be doing a nice little Christmas scene piece. Again, work in progress, so got quite a bit left to do on it, but you'll see this come up on an event sometime toward the end of November is when I'm scheduling this. I should have the information probably up within the week for those of you that might be interested. I'm going to have a little Christmas wreath in here, or it's going to say Merry Christmas, more detail, snowfall, and all that other good stuff, okay? That's right, Amy. Sounds like a party with paint. Hi, Samantha. Dalia Hernandez. How are you? All right, everyone. So here we go. 1/2-inch brush. Gonna mix some yellow, some white, touch of brown. The color will be a little different than what I've got on the Hillside now. So yellow, a little bit of brown. Could be a deeper tone or it could be a lighter tone, doesn't really matter too much, as long as it's slightly different. I'm actually going to take a little bit of green in this case, add in too. And then, let's see. So brown, green, a touch of so brown, yellow, touch of green, and then maybe a little bit of white. Mix all three, all four. Not a perfect blend, just gonna come in here. Further refining my tree line a little. If any of you have any palette knives, this might be a good spot where you could practice with your palette knives, scooping up a lot of this paint and just wiping it right on. So this hill is further back, not a lot of detail on it. Okay, just coming in here. Go. Hi Sandy Lee, how are you? Chrissy Snow, that truck inspired by Red Barn. Cool. Don't worry folks, again, if you fall behind a little bit, jump ahead if you can. If you're comfortable, jump ahead, jump up to where I am. You will be able to go back and do some of the other stuff. As long as you have your background in place, you're pretty much good to go. You can jump around spots, not that big of a deal. And then I just want to repeat, even though I've already said it a few times, just in case somebody missed it. Don't want to sound like a broken record, but I think it's worth repeating. If you fall too far behind, you will have a chance to come back and watch the recorded version of all of this. Okay. So here we go, next step. I'm going to take a little brown, one of my really small brushes, little skinny liner brush, this little guy right here. Okay, I'm going to be using the very point of my bristles, I'm going to be using only brown. So I take some brown, I don't need a lot for this step, I bring it over to my plate. I want to make sure that I mix some water in with this, so I dip my brush into the water cup. So we'll bring some water over, mix it really nicely. Don't want any runny paint. Partly why I show you guys like this, but by holding the plate sideways, it shows me if the paint starts to run, it's too thick. It starts to run and you add a little bit more paint to it. So very lightly, right in here, back in there. And you can do this with green also if you wanted to, instead of brown. You're just going to come in here, give me these little tiny lines off in the distance, little stems. Work quickly with this. They're very light Some are taller. Maybe the ones in the back are a little shorter. The ones further away from you are a little shorter. But you're going to be putting flowers over the top of these. Maybe the ones in the front are a little bit longer. Again, work quickly. They don't need to be super detailed or defined. Just a bunch of little lines. I'm using my hand. I use my hand up against the canvas because this is all dry. Stabilizes my brush stroke. You could also do this with a palette knife if you have one. Baby steps and not so baby steps. That's how painting is developed. They don't need to be perfectly straight. They can be slightly different angles. Something like that. Again, if you don't have any brown, you mix your red, blue, and yellow. Okay, while you're at it, when you make some of those lines in the back, come up here to the front. Just make some little random ones. They're gonna fall into the background. So, and again, work rather quickly towards the ones towards the back are a little bit lighter. These are just brown. Back here, they might be really light, barely perceptible. In a moment, I'm going to show you guys how to make those a little more quickly using the handles of your brushes. The ones toward the front might be a little more noticeable. Just a few in there. We're going to do this with the green in a bit. Tisha Segura, Nanda, how's it going? Letty from North County, San Diego. Awesome. Thank you for coming back. Samantha says, I just finished the trees. It's all right, Samantha. Don't worry about it too much. This is pretty quick work. This tick, 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 tick. Down in here, nothing fancy. Nothing fancy. Just a few of these brown stems that are going to be peeking in out through the flowers. They're going to get covered up with lots of stuff, so don't stress on me too much. Just come in here and drop a few of these little lines. Again, don't tell your brain to relax a bit. Take a little bit of a back seat. Tell it not to overthink. You see what I'm doing? This is random. A little bit of a randomness. The ones towards the back are a little smaller. The ones towards the front are a little larger. That's the only real thing you want to concern yourself with. Nothing fancy. Tell that brain to just relax. What I'm going to do next really quickly, since I'm working with the brown, same little brush, I'm just going to come up in here into my tree. I'm going to give a nice, some branches that are going to be peeking through. Later on, when we add more leaves to this, we're going to cover a little bit of these up. So They look more like actual branches and trunks. But something like that. Actually, I'm going to bring this up towards the camera a bit so you guys can kind of see what I did there. And you see all the little tick marks down in the field back there. And then the stuff in the front. Nothing fancy. Okay. Awesome, Amy. Awesome, absolutely. Yep, have fun with it, folks. Have fun with it. Absolutely. Okay. What I'm going to do next, by now all this is really dry because it was such a thin coat of paint. I'm going to take the back of my brush, one of my smaller brushes, I'm going to dip it right into my paint, my yellow paint. Maybe your flowers are a different color, right? So I'm just going to come in here and start adding these little flowers that are off in the distance. So they're barely noticeable. Again, mine are yellow, yours could be whatever color you want them to be. So whenever I'm working with a particular color, I'll try to use it, whatever steps in the painting require that color, combination of that color, I try to keep them all together so that maybe makes it a little bit more of an efficient way to paint. So there's other areas that might require some yellow. We'll be doing that next. And what that means is I'm going to be mixing a little bit of yellow with some green and going into adding some leaves to the trees. Again, I'm using the back of my brush for this, the handle. You can also use the point of your brush, right? Bristles instead. You do this instead. Maybe this works better for you. But either one works. There we go. I think I'm happy with that. I can always come back and add more later. All right. So in just a moment, I am going to take some of this yellow, mix it with some green. The key to all this, folks, the way I like to tell people, everybody has, their own ideas and goals, right, with regards to art. The main thing I try to tell people is to have fun. If you have fun, you relax. If you relax, usually makes for a more enjoyable experience, but I tend to notice that when you relax a bit, your paint, your creativity flows a little bit better. And so usually by relaxing you create maybe something that makes you happy, right? You're happy to have created. So I'm taking my little liner brush, I mixed a little bit of yellow and a little bit of green together, just created a slightly lighter version. Now I'm going to come in here. This tree's way back in the distance, so it doesn't require a whole lot of detail. Just coming through and quickly adding touches of this new color. These are kind of large blocks of paint. There is a randomness to this again. I'm not sitting here going, oh, not being too calculating with where I'm putting the paint. I'm just coming in here and touching things up a little bit. We're gonna have different shades of this green throughout. Got a little brown peeking through. Kind of like that. Once I've done that, I'm going to come over to my larger tree, kind of do the same thing. These should be a little bit smaller because there's more detail on this tree, and so we are at 12:37 right now. If I'm calculating right, we should be finishing at about 1:45. A little longer than the 2.5 hours that I expected, but all good. Especially towards the end of it, it's a lot less crucial, and those usually involve a lot of touching up, little touch-ups, little tiny details that can be added at any time. I'm going to be switching brushes. I was using my little liner brush for that. I'm going to take my little 1/4-inch brush now. I'm going to mix a little more green, a little more yellow, maybe change up the tone or the shade of the color a little bit. I can lighten it up or I can darken it up a little. Doesn't really matter too much. Then I'm going to come in here and make some larger blotches. Notice I'm using, and I know the camera's a little further back so you guys can see both paintings. I'm just coming in here and doing this, different parts of the brush. There's a randomness to this that makes things look a little bit more natural. I can cover up some of those branches that I made earlier a little bit, maybe towards the points, so they get lost a little bit in these leaves that I'm creating, the foliage on this tree. All right, that's starting to look like a tree. Close-up of the yellow flowers, absolutely. Okay, so give me one sec. Let me turn the light toward the painting a touch, so maybe it makes it easier to see. All they are is a bunch of little dots, just little random sized dots. And I can come back later and add some more over that to layer to create a more dense field of flowers, right? On the original, I'm going to bring this over a little bit. I have a lot more of those, but whoops, there we are. I have quite a bit more of those little yellow dots, but you can always come back and add those later. Okay, so for now, add a few of them, give it some density, move on and do some other stuff. In the meantime, that's all drying. Then you can come back and do another layer over the top, and that's going to give it a lot more of that density. Let's see. So let me bring that up a little bit again. I'm going to give you guys a close-up of everything, okay? So there's the flowers. There's the tree in the background. The tree's way back in the distance. There's going to be a lot less detail on those trees. And then here's this one in the front. Okay. There's the barn. And then the field in the front. Okay, so take about a minute and a half, 2 minutes. We're going to come in and start working in the field in the front. We're going to start adding some color. We're still in the background. We're not doing flowers or actual leaves or anything like that. We're still going to be in the background creating some of those, some of the background color that's going to create that density in the flowers. Okay. I'm going to try to bring the camera up just a little bit so that we get more of everything in view. I know it's not going to make a huge difference, but maybe a little. You got it, Bonnie. You're welcome. Needy, are you asking? Needy, are you asking what colors did I use for the trees, or for the whole painting? Hi, Patrice from Chicago. How are you? Welcome. I'm looking at the comments now, folks. So if you guys have a question, put it down in there, or a comment, or a hello, etc. So, got about another minute, and like I said, we're going to start moving up in here. Okay, Didi, you got it. I'm going back to my 1/4-inch brush. Oh, sorry, my 1/2-inch brush. Okay? And again, folks, these are just suggestions. You can use pretty much whatever brush you've got. As long as it's a similar size, you're good. I'm taking a clump of green. I'm going to take maybe a touch of brown. A touch of brown. I'm going to mix it together. Again, not a perfect blend or anything like that. I'm just darkening the green a touch. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come in here and do this. Watch what I do with my brush. I'm just going to randomly create some dark textured areas in the background. Okay? And these could be slightly different shades. I'm going to add. As I'm going through here, I added a little bit more yellow in there. And some of these are going to be nice and thin, barely noticeable. I'll bring it close up here in just a bit. Work quickly through this. There's a randomness to this. It's not going to be anything that I need to explain too much because it's a very random process. Make some little lines like this. With this also, some little thin lines with the same colors. The variation, we're looking for a slight variation of color. Okay, we're just going to kind of come through here, and our better flowers are going to sit over the top of this. Excuse me. So right now, all we're really doing is creating the background still. This is going to be the part of the whole painting. The barn takes some detail, right? But this right here, there's a little bit of maybe a repetitive nature to it that might make it a little tedious for some of you. But if you work through it quickly, you're going to be okay. So if you're making little thin lines like this, like I am, stems that are going to be popping through, the ones towards the back are a little smaller, maybe even a little thinner. So I'm using the very tip of the bristles, or the very tip of the very pointy part of my brush. In some cases, I just touch the canvas like this. Especially again, the lines that are further back are smaller, thinner, fainter, so you just kind of barely touch the canvas just a bit. But you do want areas that are blotchy like this. I'm going to take more yellow to lighten the color up a little. Let me see. I need to pour out some more yellow. Give me 1 sec. Okay, just going to add more yellow to my mixture. Drop some down in here too, towards the front. Enjoy the process, everyone. What at first doesn't look like much slowly starts to take shape. So you can also take a smaller brush like this, and you could dip it into a paint like this. Right, and you can almost do this like if you're using a palette knife. So I'm going to hold this up like this, and I can come in here and kind of do this. I can also do this. Those variations in texture that you're looking for a little bit. And also come in and do this. Kind of pull to the sides a little. You want a bunch of these. Different shades of this. Add some green, some yellow, some browns. Okay, we're going to do this for another minute or so, and then I'm going to come over to the comments, see what you guys have as far as questions or hellos, etc. Lost one of my studio lights. Let me get that back up. So who else is on here that joined me last night for the Jack Skellington and Jack and Sally painting? That was a lot of fun. So I added a little bit of yellow to my mixture. Kind of doing this. Watch what I'm doing. Sorry folks, hopefully I'm not moving my canvas around so much that you're not seeing what. I just realized that maybe I was off camera. Got a little too caught up with the process. Happens sometimes. Once you've done that for a bit, maybe mix some more yellow into your paint. Come in and you can overlap a little bit, right? Some of the color that you already added, you can come in and paint right over it. Hopefully you guys are having fun and maybe learning a little bit if you're newer to painting. I always enjoy these. All right, so work on that for just a minute or so more and try to move quickly. Here I am looking at the comments. If some of you guys, if you guys see some questions come up, and you know the answer because you painted with me before or because you saw the comments under the discussion board, although there wasn't a whole lot of discussion for this one, feel free to answer each other, kind of help each other out. Sometimes I miss questions and stuff that come through. Samantha, what is that long message? What is that? Let's see. Oh, I don't know what's happening with my laptop. I can't see everything that's going on here. I feel like I'm missing some stuff. Let's see. Sorry guys, if my phone, again I apologize if my phone vibrates or anything like that. I didn't get a chance to, I forgot to put it on do not disturb mode, which is I really do. And if I try to do it now, I will probably knock myself off of Facebook, and we don't want to do that. So somebody's asking for my virtual tip jar information, and I do appreciate that. For those of you that are interested and can, right? It's not something that you have to do, absolutely not. I appreciate you guys being on here. You can help me in lots of ways. One of them is by sharing my page with on your Facebook, letting your friends know about this and stuff like that. It's fantastic. But I do have a Venmo, I have a PayPal, and I have a Zelle. Venmo is at Painting with Jesse, Jesse, and you'll see it all as one word, Painting with Jesse. Same thing with PayPal. With PayPal, if you decide to send me a bazillion dollars, especially if you're sending a bazillion dollars, you want to be careful with how you combine. So this is all one word, Painting with Jesse, on PayPal, especially on PayPal. If you do painting space with space Jesse, you're going to get somebody different. Okay, so just be careful with that if you do decide to send a bazillion dollars over. And then my Zelle is just my phone number. So Venmo at Painting with Jesse, PayPal, and you'll see a picture of me. If you're using Venmo and PayPal, you'll see a picture of me at the top, a little picture holding like a canvas or something. But okay, for those of you that are interested in can, I saw the question come up. Diana, name is Diana. Awesome, thank you, Diana. Anyway, folks, all right. So here's what I want you guys to do next. We're gonna start adding some little flowers in the background, little tiny. The ones back here are smaller than the ones up in the front, right? They get larger the further forward you come. Just imagine you're standing in front of this barn, right? So you're standing in front of the field of flowers, and the flowers close to you are larger. The ones in the back are just little dots. And you can create those with one of your smaller brushes, or the back of one of your brushes also, the handle. So you're gonna pick your flower color. I've got an orangish red going on, so I can kind of do this. Take a little bit of orange, take a little bit of red, mix the two together. Now I'm going to come in here and back in here. I'm just going to start doing this. First with the handle of my brush. Once again, try to work it a little quickly. if you want to keep up. This part of it again can all be refined later. Okay, just like this. And as you start getting closer to the front of the forward again, they start getting larger. So for that, I'm just going to flip my brush around. And I'm going to use the corners of my brush now. Little corners. Orange, a bit of red. And they can get more intensely red as you come forward, right? They're almost like poppies. So I can use the corners of my brush now to start making bigger flowers. Later I'll come in and add little points in the centers of some of them, especially the ones towards the front, that for the little center, the little middle of the flower. If I use the corner of the brush like this, I create almost a little triangle shaped, almost like a little flower bud. I'm going to try to see if I can give you guys a close-up of this action. Here's my brush. You see right here? I come up and I just touch the canvas. Okay. If I want smaller flowers, I just barely touch it. If I want thicker flowers, and then the ones in the front, if I want to do some in the front, kind of do this. Now, you notice I'm making little open centers. You don't have to do that. Those will eventually be black or whatever color I want them to be, but you don't have to do that right now. You know, just come in and do a complete closed flower like that and just add a little dot of whatever other color you want later. Okay? So that's how we're building up our little flower field. Again, further back, smaller flowers, little dots. As you start coming forward, you start getting bigger, whiter, rounder. The ones in the front start to look a lot more like flowers. You will learn as much from watching as from listening. Clues are how I hold the brush, my brush strokes, all that good stuff. We're going to do this for a few minutes, maybe 4 or 5 more minutes, and then we're going to go back up to our barn. The barn needs some detail. And then we still got more density we can create by adding more branches and stems in there, right? There's a lot more to it. We're going to be overlapping flowers and things like that. As much as we can get done in this session today. I don't know that I'll entirely finish everything so it looks exactly like this, but I will get you to the point where you know what you got to do next. Okay, if we don't end up completely finishing, there'll be very little left. And it'll only be the redundant stuff that's left over, like the flower field that's left. So if I was to come in here with a small brush, a little pointy brush, and I pick up some black, and I come in here and I do this. Not all my flowers are going to get this, some of them, just the ones that are facing forward, right? You could also put this towards the top, so some of your flowers might be pointed up, like that one there. I got to make sure I'm in camera shot every time I do this. Maybe this one has the little black part up there. This one has it over to the side, center. This one has it right there. Not all of them get this, right? Pick a few and they start to look more like flowers. All right, work on that for a little. I'm going to look and see if there's any new comments or questions. We are at 1 o'clock, folks. 1 o'clock. What's up, cousin? Love you too. I have a cousin popped in to say hello and tell me she loves me. Very sweet of her. Yes, so there is a little bit of blue in the background, right? In there. We're going to be doing some of that also. So definitely thank you for pointing that out, Needy. We will be doing a little bit of that blue blotchiness that you see kind of in the distance. Okay, in the distance and underneath. We're going to be doing almost like a little bit of blue flower that's coming out through, in between the red ones here. These guys in here. Okay, and actually you look like little flowers back there. It's been a couple of weeks since I did this painting, 3 weeks, I don't remember now. But yeah, the idea at first, I actually started with blue flowers. And I said, you know what, let's make them more intense. It wasn't standing out as much as I wanted to, so I started adding red flowers, and I said, that's what I want. But I left those blue ones in there to give it, I like it. And if you wanted to, of course, you could further refine, if you decide to add some of that, you could further refine this to make them actually look like flowers. So, you know what? We're on that little step, working with flowers, so let's go ahead and talk about that. My little 1/4 inch brush, I'm going to grab some blue here, and I'm going to make a really light shade of blue similar to my sky color. Oops, I lost my white paint, so let me reach over. Remember, folks, if you're new to acrylic painting, in between steps, your brushes sit in the water cup so that they don't get, so the paint doesn't dry out on them, and that's no fun to clean those. So really light blue. You don't need a lot of paint. You're gonna pick some spots. Kind of do this. Okay. And there can be a variation in the intensity of the blue as you move around. Just find little spots. Bring this forward so you guys can see. So, and you're going to be able to overlap this. I'm using my finger to reduce some of the intensity, and I can also use my finger to move some of this paint around to other areas. Like, let's see, I do this, pick up some of that and bring it to the back a little with my thumb. Kind of doing like that. We're going to be adding more stems over this. So we're going to overlap some of these colors. And again, towards the back, they're smaller. Okay, so you get the idea. Use your fingers to reduce some of the intensity of the blue or the thickness. So again, we'll come back and add some stems and more flowers over all of this. Okay? All right. That's funny, Chrissy. She says, "Oh, I thought that was water." I live by an estuary. Okay, that's hilarious. So here's somebody asked for a close-up of the black centers on the flowers. This is a very impressionistic style painting, not a whole lot of definition going on. Impressionistic style painting uses very loose brushwork. so that especially when you're up close, you're like, those look like kind of like blotches to me. They look like there's not a whole lot of detail. They look like somebody just kind of, but when you step back a little bit, it takes shape and everything goes, ah. So it's an impressionistic style. You're creating the impression of a barn, the impression of a field of flowers, the impression of trees. Right, you have more paintings where things are a lot more defined, more refined, and especially portraits and things like that. You get a lot of detail. Those are more realistic, realism. This is impressionism. Okay, so all right, guys, let's talk about the barn. Let's put those brushes down from the field. This part of it is kind of important. Again, you can pick this up later on your own when you come back and watch the video some more if you'd like. But I'm going to start working on the barn, adding some more detail to it. This is where the barn starts to pop a bit. You're going to be using one of the smaller brushes, a couple of the smaller brushes. I'm going to jump around in between my 1/2 inch brush, my 1/4 inch brush, and maybe even my little 1/8 inch brush. Okay, so I'm just going to take white for now, clump it up on my brush like this. And I'm going to come in here and just kind of create some of the lightest areas on my barn. Okay, I'm just touching some of these areas. My brush strokes are not smooth. Again, this is an old barn, and some of these boards have brighter paint on them. It's weathered a bit. So you're going to pick your little spots. Maybe it's only on the edges of some of these boards. Maybe it's a large part of your board, but in some cases you barely want to touch the canvas, and maybe just kind of move your brush around a little. I'm going to see if I can hold the canvas and do that technique up close. It's a little hard to do, but I'll see if I can do it. So here's my brush. I'm just going to come in here. I'm barely touching the canvas. Okay, and then I can use my finger touch just to kind of move that around a little. Okay, I can do that wherever I want. Maybe up in here. Some old barn. So maybe slightly falling apart. So come over to this side over here on these little boards, just gonna do the same thing. I can do that. Imagine where the boards on your barn are. And again, if you're using a different color, just lighten it up for this step. Whatever color that you're using to paint your barn in, make a really light version of that color. And in some cases, I'm not really brushing anything. I'm just touching the brush. It's like I'm touching. And I'll try to bring it up nice and close so you guys can see. Just touching. I'm touching and lifting. And then I'm going to brush a little. But I'm letting the randomness of my hand movement create some texture. Over here and do the same. Don't worry about, you don't want to try to mimic exactly what I'm doing. Just get the general kind of feel for it and move around your barn and do the same to different parts of it. So let's say you've got some boards that go across and you highlighted this board but not this one, and that one's darker gray, and so on and so forth. As long as there's variation in it, that's what matters. It's going to start giving it that weathered look. But no stressing. That's a rule when you paint with Jesse. Relax and have some fun. So we're gonna come over here. Let's see, where else can I add some of this stuff? And it's little steps, right? It's a buildup of layers that starts to create. If you wanna, again, if you wanna create simple paintings, they're a lot less complex. You don't have to worry about too many steps. But when they're more complex, you're working, you're moving around your painting, letting areas dry before you come back. But it is all about layering. But play a little bit, experiment a little bit. All right. Exactly, Amy. So Amy says the first picture looks like fall is coming, and her fresh painted picture looks like fresh summer, rich green grass. So what happens is as we layer some more colors in here, we can start adding some more neutral tones or darker tones in here. And so because what's happening on this new painting, you can see a lot of the original light green that we laid down. So as we layer more of these darker colors, that will start to fade away, and you're going to start getting that more of a fall feel to everything. That's exactly right, and that's an awesome observation. So because you can still see so much of that original base color, that gives it that effect. In order to get to this, you've got to really start to make everything nice, give everything more density, and we want to start choosing darker tones with brown in them. If you don't want that shading, then you just stick with lighter colors. But if you want to kind of make a choice like that, that's how you would do that. Okay. Also, even up in the hill here, I got some slight different variations of this yellow tone that give it a darker hue to them, to everything, and then even the trees, slightly darker areas in the trees. We'll work in here in a little bit, but yes, that's an awesome observation. It doesn't take a whole lot to start to change the mood of a painting. Little subtle changes like that are exactly how things vary. Okay, how you vary things up. But in a little bit, when we go back to the field, we're going to start to add some of those tones. We're going to further refine. We're going to add more of the stems and start giving it more of that fall look. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing with the trees. But yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Samantha. Thank you. My white paintbrush's tip is green. Yep, that's what happens. It's funny because I end up with a lot of, my brushes. I get a lot of the white bristle brushes. Not this one. This one has that. What do they call this? I can't remember the name. There's a name for this color of bristle, which is kind of a golden Taklon. That's it. It's a golden Taklon color. But there's some white ones, white Taklon. And so I like those really bright white ones, but they don't stay white. They start taking the colors of everything that you're using. So, all right, everyone. So here's what I'm gonna do. Same brush. I'm gonna clean it up a little bit. We're gonna work with black. So I'm just gonna remove. I don't have to completely clean my brush. I just try to remove as much of the white as I can. Now I'm going to take some of this black like this, and I'm going to come in here and straight black. I'm going to give some darker hued areas to this doorway. It's like you're peeking into the barn, and it gets, maybe there's a little bit of light peeking in, but so you have some lighter areas. This is where the barn starts to take in a little bit of that 3D effect. Okay. And then we're also maybe going to take some of this, and over here, these are maybe some maybe some animals are back in there, and so you kind of see some darker areas of the back part of all of that. Just touch up a little bit. But when you do this black to the doorway, it's going to offset that original dark gray that we created. So now it gives, there's a 3D effect now. There's some depth to the entryway and to the opening up on top on the second floor. Now I'm not putting black all over the place in there, right? I'm just kind of touching up some little sections of it to give that depth feel. Okay, once I do that, I'm going to take a little bit of white and a little bit of the black, mix it together, create some more really dark gray. I'm just going to be using the corners of my brush for this. I'm just going to come in here and kind of find some random areas to apply some dark lines to. A little bit. Oops, I'm going to put it back on the easel here. So just touching the canvas in between the boards maybe. Here we're going to add a little bit of this new color. Over here on the side, where the side of the barn is, a dark shaded area of the barn. I want to create a dark shade, but not super dark. Just going to come in here and add a little bit in here. This is all darker. Again, it's sitting over in the shaded area, so we want to create some depth by shading this a little darker than the rest of the barn. Let's see here. A little bit of white. Okay, making a nice shaded gray, and I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to do this. Most of these wood boards are going to have this dark shaded gray. Again, this is the shaded side of our barn. So maybe a little bit of white peeks through here and there, but for the most part, nice gray. So I was going through and I realized when we started that I didn't put the do not disturb on my phone. I was like, oh no, I'm gonna get some vibration, some calls gonna come through, or my cameras at home are gonna be alerting me that there's movement, blah blah blah. So I don't know how much my phone's vibrating over there, but if it is vibrating a lot, I do apologize. When I first started doing these, and I started way back in, I think it was late April, early March, there were all kinds of things that would happen, technical difficulties that I would encounter. And little by little, I started to develop a flow to this process. But today I forgot to turn that off. So work on that for a little bit, folks. You guys got about 2 minutes and we're moving on to the next step. Okay, folks, while we're here working on our barn, let's put in our little weather vane at the top. Okay? For those of you who want to have one. So I'm going to teach you guys how to draw a little rooster. A little tricky. I'm going to first show you how to do it on a paper plate. So you get the feel for it. And then you're going to be putting it up on top of your little weather vane. I'm going to make a large version of our little rooster. Okay, so everyone watch this. I'm going to do this with a pencil. You guys all set? You guys all paying attention? You guys got about 10 seconds to look at your screen. We're going to do the little weather vane, then we're going to put in the little fence, the wooden fence off in the background. Okay, so here's our little rooster. Again, hopefully everybody can see what I'm doing here. I've got the paper plate up close to the camera. So a little rooster looks like this. We're going to start with his little neck. And I'll darken this up here in just a moment. Okay, we've got his little neck. Goes down into his chest. Comes back. A little tricky to do this standing up with my holding the paper plate. But this is his little chest. Okay, this is the neck, back of the neck. From here, it's going to go back up into his tail. It's going to drop down. It's going to go up, down. You got those little feathers on the back. His little tail. Then it's going to go drop down. And connect to the little arrow for that weather vane. Let's open my pencil here. Okay, I got the little arrow. Sorry folks, I'm having technical difficulties with my pencil, but it's okay. I think you guys are seeing well enough. So from the neck, can't forget our rooster's head. I'm going to go into a little beak. Okay, because it's so small, you're not going to see a whole lot of detail from a distance. There's our beak, goes into the head, and then right into the crest. Looks like mine's got more of a pompadour. Again, it's a little tough to hold this and do this at the same time. So then from here, of course, it's going to connect to the top of the barn. And then maybe you can see, depending on how you have yours, you can see one of the letters depicting northeast, southwest, right? Or maybe you can see two of them. I don't know. Up to you guys, depending on where you put it. That's the idea. Make the head a little smaller, okay? Unless you actually, that would work too. So here we go. I'm going to do that. Let's see. Yeah, he has an afro. Ariel, that's right. He has a little bit of an afro. So here we go. Little rooster coming up. Okay, you guys saw how I did it. I can't bring the canvas forward and do it because if I try to hold it, I'm going to draw it up here and then I'm going to bring a nice little close-up. Here's the original. Okay, maybe, I don't know if you guys are on your phones, probably not. You guys can take a little screenshot of this. Get as close as I can. Okay, so here we go. I'm about to draw myself a nice little rooster on top. Okay, there's my little weather vane. Rooster. Little arrow goes across. Okay. Maybe I can see a little north. Not sure if you guys are going to be able to see all of this. It's in pencil. I'll bring it up. So I started with the weather vane first, with the bottom part. Then make my little rooster on top of it. Maybe yours has a roadrunner or a little pig or who knows. Tell me in the comments what your weather vane is going to be. Yes, you can erase over acrylic paint. There we go. I was under pressure. It actually turned out all right. Maybe he looks a little frazzled, but he's okay. He's a good-looking rooster, if you ask me. Here we go. So I'm just gonna take a little bit of brown and I'm going to color him in. Take a little bit of water, mix it with my brown. Using my little skin brush for this. I'm now going to show you guys what my rooster looks like up close. It's an impressionistic rooster, okay? All things considered, good looking rooster. That's a little too big. See if we can fix that a little bit. All right, looking better now. Could use some refinement, but it's all right. There's my new rooster. Yeah. Okay. Give you guys a couple minutes on that. Broom. Samantha said she's getting. Oh, brown. Oh, sorry. I thought you said it was you were gonna do a broom on yours. Mine looks dupery. So I'm using brown, folks. I use brown for that. Mine looks like a duck. Christine Hubbard, what's up, Christine? How are you? Mine looks like a duck, Christine says. It's okay, you can have a duck as a weather vane. It's all good. Now here's the original. Okay, again, to give you guys reference on the original. But, you know, do your best. Yeah, this one looks a little frazzled. That's all right. So we're going to move on here pretty quickly, folks, to the next step, which is going to be adding some more leaves to our. Oh, we're going to do the fence. We're going to put in the fence, and the fence is pretty easy. You're just going to use mostly brown. And then a little tiny bit of white. A little brown, a little tiny bit of white. You can also use a little bit of yellow. When you mix the two colors together, don't make the color too even tone. Make it so you can kind of see a little bit of both colors kind of peeking through. And I'm going to start over here. I'm going to hold the canvas up close. Right in here. I can start with the post if I want. There's my wood post. And then maybe from behind the barn we get the wood planks come across. And then they go out. I'm going to actually use a little bit more brown to go over the top of this. Okay, so there's my wood fence peeking from behind the barn. When you guys do the fence out here in the distance, You're gonna use just the very point of your bristles of your brush, and then you want to push down on the brush, so it makes the point really nice and skinny. Gonna come up in here, and we're gonna go little tiny posts, small posts. This is a lighter version of this color, so use a lighter version that we used over here. Lighten it up with a little bit of white. Further back things are, the lighter the color becomes. So your fence here could be the same color as the one up here in the front. In reality, right, when you get a close up, let's say you walk up to this fence. This fence would be the exact same color as this one, but it looks lighter when it's off in the distance. So make it a little bit lighter. And then this one also disappears off behind your barn. Again, make that a little bit lighter in color. It could also be more even toned. You're not going to see all the little subtle differences. When you make that color, add a little bit more white to it. The further back your fence is, the lighter it's going to be. Kind of a general idea. All right, work on your fence for a moment. We're going to move into the back in here a little bit. We're going to mix some of that brown and some green to create some more of that density that's in there. Let's check what time it is. 1:34. Let's see, 11, 12, 1. We've been painting for 2.5 hours. So I'm going to tell you what, we're going to go to 3 o'clock. At 3 o'clock, we're done, okay? But again, I'm going to leave you, if we're not completely done with the painting, I'm going to leave you to a point where you'll know what the next step is, and all it's going to be, I can already kind of envision. It's just adding more density in here, but I'm going to show you how to do that, and then adding a little bit more density in your trees. And that's pretty much it. You can go in and add a little more detail to your barn. Just little subtle lines here and there, little tiny skinny lines to refine things, bring some boards out a bit. Especially over on the side, maybe more tones in there to kind of push that back a bit. But you guys all should have, you should already be pretty close to kind of what I got over here. But anyhow, we're going to take some green and a little bit of brown. We're going to mix those two together. We're going to take, let's see here, I'm going to use my little 1/4-inch brush. This guy right here. I'm going to take some green, bring it over to my mixed plate. I'm going to take some brown. Wherever my brown is, I'm out, so I got to grab some more. I'm going to pick things up a little bit, folks. Okay? I know we're painting a little longer than expected, but it happens, so hopefully you guys are all okay with it. If not, and you guys got to take off, come on back. Continue with the recorded version when you have a chance. So I'm taking some green and some brown, mixing the two together, right? Just like this. Making a really deep green. As long as it's a tone that's different than what you got in your background, you're going to come in here, the trees back there, and you're just going to touch this. Now is when this starts to look a little bit more like a fall painting. You're also going to add a little bit of yellow to this in a bit after we kind of go around working this color in. We're going to add some yellow to it. And layer over the top to give it that look like some of the flowers are turning right from green to yellow. Something like that. Remember, this is a bit random, so maybe towards the bottom of the trees it gets a little darker in some sections. Then we're going to come over to this tree, and we're going to do the same thing. Randomness with my brush. Okay. Same brush, about the same color. I just threw in a little tiny bit of yellow to lighten the color a little. Now I'm going to use this, and I'm going to come in here, find little spots. I do overlap things also. Overlap some of the blues, some of the flowers. Make more stems. Throw some yellows in there a little bit. Smudge, and then, so actually I'm going to take some yellow, going to mix it into my color again. Lighten it up a little bit more. Lots of thin lines to create density. We're also going to be creating, adding some leaves. And more flowers. I'm going to switch over to my my 1/8 inch brush. Now there's numbers on these brushes that give you, there's a 6, there's a 2, but because we don't have to be super specific, I'm giving you the size so that you can kind of look at yours and go, well, I've got one that's kind of like that size. But again, these are all flat brushes that I'm working with. Use your brush and kind of do this. You're doing it in between where there's some of that. You're not trying to cover up every single bit of that background, that original background, but the more you overlap things, the more you're going to cover that up. If you want more of a fall look, then you're going to cover up more of it. If you want a little bit more of a spring look, then you leave more of it peeking through. Your lines towards the back are smaller, your little stems, remember. Okay, a lot smaller. And then shorter. Christine Hubbard, you made a turkey, huh? Oh man, that's funny. Rosemarie, I have to leave. I will finish my watercolor painting later today. I miss painting with watercolors. As always, thank you. Have an awesome day, everyone. All right, Rose, no worries. Yeah, we're getting close to the end, folks. Just minor refinements is what we're doing now. Coming through. Don't forget, you can grab the back of your brush, kind of do this. All of this is really about layering, and it all depends on how much density you want to give your painting. Okay, what I'm going to do here in a moment So this is what I'm going to leave you with. It's not over yet. I'm just telling you one of the things that you're going to be doing, and it's all dependent on what you want your painting to look like. So as we're adding more flowers and stuff like that, it's that density of all these little lines and all these little colors. Kind of a tedious step. Involves a lot of this where you're creating lots of little lines in between and overlapping. Okay, this is what you want to do if you want to create that density that starts to create that darker feel to everything. Okay, and again, when I call it at about 3 o'clock, you're going to look at your painting, and I'll remind everyone, and you decide if you need more density in yours or if you're happy with what you have. Mine needs more flowers. It's gonna get some leaves here in a moment. Especially towards the front, you're gonna be able to see more of those leaves. But you guys are starting to notice, I'm sure, that it's starting to take a different tone. All this layering in the front. What I'm going to do for my leaves, I'm going to start with my little 1/4-inch brush, my 1/8 of an inch brush. Work my way up to my 1/4-inch brush and then eventually to my 1/2-inch brush. But I'm going to take just green like this. Thick green, and I'm going to come in here and they're a little bit on the random side. They'll start to look like like leaves. These are thick. The leaves towards the front are larger. You can connect them to some of the stems. Maybe on some of your flowers, you're going to give them little stems. You can connect them right below your flowers. Different directions. Let me see if I can show you guys up close. So let's say, for example, right in here, let me find my place. There we go. Have to look at the camera for this. So like right there, oops, like right there, here. Let me load up my brush with a little bit more green here. Hang on one sec. Gotta get a little more green on my palette. So I'll grab my green like this, load it up, and once again, we're doing impressionistic. This is an impressionistic style painting. Further back you go, these are smaller. I'm going to change up the color here in a moment. Go with some darker ones. Take a little bit of brown and green, mix of two. Make a slightly darker mixture, and then here we go. And if you want, you can go through here and maybe make some, excuse me, look a little bit more like actual leaves by taking your brush and simply creating more of a leaf shape like that. So you do this throughout. Little by little, you start creating that density. I'm going to go back. Well, excuse me. Let me get something to drink here. Excuse me, folks. Last couple of days, actually since yesterday, I started getting the sniffles. And I don't know if it's allergies or what. Now I'm starting to think it's a little bit cold. But hopefully that's all it is. So I'm going to take some red now, my little 1/4-inch brush. Now I could make more leaves with my larger brushes like I mentioned earlier I would, but I'm going to go ahead and just grab some more of my red paint, a little bit of orange, mix the two together. And I'm just going to add more of these way back off in the distance, again creating density. Notice that over here is a little bit barren, don't have as many flowers. So little dots way back there. More up in here, again they start getting larger as we get closer to the front. Some large ones here near the front. Think Impressionism. I know for some of us, sometimes our brains are like, wait a minute, I want to make mine look exactly like a flower. My leaves have to look exactly like leaves. But there's a little bit of an exercise in kind of like experimentation and trust. You just go for it. Density, layering, it's all part of this. Adding a few little more orange ones in here. Whoops, sounds a little too bright on orange. So again, now what you guys are seeing is it's slowly starting to look like the original. Okay. So I'm going to let you guys work on that for just a little bit, but I do want to talk about the yellow leaves in there if you want, or the yellow flowers. If you want more, come on up. And I'm going to say do that when you're, when we're all done with the video. Don't have to go to do this now. When we're done with the session, if you want more yellow flowers, go in there and add more yellow in there. Same with up in there. If you wanted to take and change that tone up, because that's far away, there's not a whole lot that's needed in there, but if you wanted to add a little bit more, maybe yours is it's kind of flat, just take a little bit of yellow. I want to take a little bit of yellow and try not to grab any of the black that's back behind there. See that I do it. I did. Awesome. Now we're just kind of, well, I did grab a little bit of black, no big deal. Just for, I got some red in there too. Just for change in color. Go in there, move that around. I actually picked up some red a little bit by accident, but that's all right. And then you can take your finger and kind of move that around a little bit. Okay, work on your flowers here for a little bit. That is the idea. Okay, I'm gonna give you guys a couple minutes on that. So that's probably all we're gonna get done with together today as far as your flowers. We're gonna come back and add a little bit more, some yellow leaves up in the trees to change up the color a bit, make them look a little bit more fallish for those of you that want that. And then I will say this, what you do want to do with some of these flowers is of course give them the little black or different color center. Not all of them, don't do this to all of them, just select a few of them and kind of go in there and just touch them up. It can be towards the top, towards the side, it depends on which direction your flowers are pointing. Okay? So work on that for just a touch. Samantha, what are we doing? I was messing with my cat. That's funny. 10 minutes, folks. Holy crap, we really did paint quite long today. So we got 10 minutes to go. I'm just going to give you guys about a minute or so now on the flowers in here. We're going to add some color up to the trees, like I mentioned, and then that'll be all she wrote. We're going to sign our paintings. That's the last step. You sign your painting, and we are done. All right. I do want to thank all of you that are here with me today. I certainly appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome. Thank you for spending your Saturday with me. Let's see. Okay, little 1/4 inch brush. Again, folks, wherever you are, you're going to be able to come back and go back and watch the video again. Took a little bit of yellow. I'm just going to come in here and touch up some of the edges of my tree. And I can, if they're too intense, take your finger and move that yellow around. Just kind of go into the edges for now. It's where the most intense yellows are going to be. And again, use your finger to kind of change that up a touch. Then move around a little bit. Wherever you feel like you need a more subtle green, simply take your finger and rub over the top of it. That. Then we're going to come over here and do the same thing. Kind of the upper edges where the sunlight comes down and touches the trees. Again, these trees are way off in the distance, so this is a little more subtle. I am overlapping a little bit over the darker areas towards the center, making those a little bit more subtle. So let's see, I still got about 28 devices left. I saw a little drop out there towards the end. But it's either you guys are finishing up or you're getting a little tired, or maybe you're done for now and you're planning on coming back. You have to take off. But don't forget, when you do come back, look for the video under the Lives tab. The Live tab on the main page. That's where you'll find this. Okay, take a little more green maybe, and it's bright green, and add different colored leaves in there for variety. Here. So I'm going to take this little tiny brush, 1/4 inch, 1/8 inch brush. I'm going to grab a little tiny bit of brown, and I am going to give my trees off in the distance just some really subtle little trunks. Real tiny, you can barely see these. Towards the bottom there. So we got a bunch of trees going across, right? So on the original, I'll show you here on the new one. Way off in the distance, you can see little tiny trunks. So I did that here. And now I'm going to take my little 8-inch brush and just kind of come in here and add little leaves over the top of them, just a little bit, so those trunks get lost. Okay, so kind of like that. All right, folks, that is pretty much it for today. Here's what I would need to do mine to continue to create that look. I would just again continue adding more density with more branches, more stems, etc. in the background, and then leaves, and more flowers. Okay, that's the main trick, is those, especially towards the front, larger flowers. And then what I like to always tell people, you know, if you like your painting, you're going to be hanging it up or whatever, you want to sign it. Pick a little corner, kind of like I did here on the original, and you sign it. Sign your piece. Okay. I want to thank all of you guys for joining me today. Hopefully you had some fun. You did a little learning. You relaxed a bit. Like I said, I always enjoy myself quite a bit. It is work, setting these up and all that good. You know, it's just, but it is most definitely a labor of love, and I have a lot of fun doing these. So I'm probably going to be resting up a little bit today. It's been a long month. So we can create some new videos, I got to create some more paintings for the next few weeks. I showed you guys the Christmas one that's coming up. I showed you it's a work in progress. I'm going to do a Halloween one next Friday. I don't have the theme for it yet. It was a crazy week, so I didn't get a chance to do that, but be on the lookout for that. If you haven't yet liked my page, please do so. That's how you're going to get all the alerts for my new stuff. The page, got a lot of stuff that's going to be coming up, and if you don't like the page, it's not going to pop up on your feed. So, all right, everyone, just want to thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it. Like I said earlier, thank you guys so much. I hope you guys have an awesome rest of the weekend, and stay safe out there. I'm looking at the video feed here, and I can see I need a little more detail in the barn. Just little tiny little things that make it look a little bit more detailed. So I could come in and take, let's see here. I'm actually going to do it really quickly to give you guys some help with that. Any color that I want, whatever shade I'd like to change up. So I can come in here and maybe I have a little bit of white and create a really light, maybe not so light, gray, and I'll come in here and wherever this color seems to fit, and it's going to be closer to the inside here, I'm just going to come in here and add little touches. So all these little subtle things that start to make this look like that. So play with it a bit. And also do a little bit more with the black. And I'm going to come in here and little touches up in here. Don't get super specific. Just play around a little bit. Your barn is going to look a little different than mine, right? Look at the original, get some ideas, and go from there. All right, everyone, let's see here. Does soap help clean? Clean paintbrushes? It does. So for those of you that are new to acrylic painting, all you would really do, mostly water. Because this has all been sitting in my water cup, there's no paint that's really stuck onto this. If I go and rinse it off underwater, it'll take it all off. If you want to use a little soap, go for it. A little dish soap, clean up your brushes, pull out all the paint. Then what you want to do at the end is you want to take your brush and do this to it. Straighten out the bristles. Once you've cleaned it up, straighten out your bristles, reform the tips, and then let them sit in a cup or a container, everything facing up, all your brushes facing up. You don't want to leave them sitting facing downwards for too long, because that will start to bend the bristles on the brush. Okay? So wash them under the sink, soap, little soap if you want, and then form them, reform them so they take back their normal shape, and then set them in a cup, sticking up. Okay? All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys once again, and I will see you guys all very soon. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you, Chrissy. Thank you. You got it, Diana. Carol, Davis. You were on here last night too, huh? You got it. You got it. It was a long day yesterday, or a long night. But all right, everyone. Samantha says COVID in large letters. I hope not. I sure hope not. Yeah, that would be no fun. But all right. Thank you guys. I'll see you guys all very soon. Bye-bye.